Alright, so this is making ointments, which is kind of like you can have it as a thick wax, a thick oily waxy kind of stuff, and you can also have it as a thin, like a thick oil. You can think waxy kind of oil, and they're good for scrapes, burns, skin issues. To me, it's the easier and more preserved, more easily preserved version of a cream. And this is how to make the herbal or alchemical version, depending on what you want to use. So currently here I've got castor oil, which I'm trying out. It's like a bean oil. Never used it before. Usually I use rice oil, so I'm probably going to go for 80% rice oil, 20% castor oil. You can use any kind of thing, cocoa butter, or you can use waxes, butters, well not wax. Here we've got beeswax, which is an ointment, is just oil and wax of a ratio to 1 cup oil to 1 ounce, which is 28 grams wax. A cup is like 280 milliliters, so it's basically 10 milliliters oil to a gram of wax. I'm probably only going to make like 200 milliliters, so I'll have about 20 grams of wax. Now, if you use more wax, it'll be more solid. If you use less, you'll get the... if you use a lot, it'll just solidify and you'll have a block. And if you use less, you'll have a liquidy, a thick liquidy stuff. I like the liquidy stuff more, so I might use about maybe 7-8 grams to 100 milliliters of oil. Now this is vitamin E. It's a bit of a preservant. It's good for skin and all that. You can get some as well. It's a bit expensive. You don't use a whole lot of this. You only use a few drops, maybe about 5 drops per 100 milliliters. 3 to 5 drops around that. Here is a Herbal Yin Tonic. It's a very nice one. And here is pearl powder, which is just pearls crushed up into powder, which is very good if you're going to make any kind of tincture, cream or ointment or balm. You want some pearl powder. It's very good for any kind of skin issue. Anyway, let's see how to make it. Alright, so here I've got a double boiler, which is just a bowl and water. Now you want it so the bowl still falls down into the water. You don't want too much water. If you see, that's how much I've got there. Otherwise, when it heats up too much, it'll splash into it. Reason we're using a double boiler is if you get oil on fire, the oil will catch fire, and that's not so good. So either you use a hot plate, and you can probably use a hot plate and bowl, or use a double boiler, which is just a pot and some water in it and a bowl. Alright, put my oil in and my herbs in. Alright, so this is on low currently, and I want to keep it on low. You don't want the water to boil. So currently I have oil in there, 3 kinds of oil. Usually you'll have your main oil, which is like a rice. You can use coconut, you can use olive oil, any kind of bulk oil that doesn't really spoil easily and is not excessively scented, like a sesame or like a I don't know, some other kind of oil. Then you can add a secondary oil. Hemp is good, as I added. I'm trying castor oil, cocoa butter, etc. You don't have to add a secondary oil, and also a third oil, which is like essential oils, special oils like mustard oil, rose oil, as I added vitamin E oil. These can be acting as preservatives. They can be using for effects, etc. But as I said, you can just use a single oil and it's gonna be fine. This is 10 grams of herbs. And as I said, I used a yin mixture, which I think is better. You don't want something, unless you want like to make a your own kind of tiger balm, which is just cloves. You can use ginger. You can use star anise. Basically, you can use garam masala as well. If you want to make like a spicy, stimulating skin balm, which is very nice as well. But this I want to be like a skin cream that is good for antibacterial, dermatitis, all that kind of stuff. Just skin issues, so like martial art, if you're doing martial art, you put it on your hands to help it out. So I basically put about 5 grams of herbs per 100 grams of final material, and as you see, it's quite a lot actually. I could have potentially used less, but this will make it more better. Now, mineral ingredients, if you've got a very, very fine mineral powder, you can add that later at the final thing. You don't really want to cook it in with it. You can, but it's kind of unnecessary because it doesn't really, unless it's very fine, it won't really get into the oil too well. Because we'll strain the herbs out, and then we want the mineral with the pearl powder in it. Because that just seems to kind of almost dissolve into it, which is nice. But the herbs, you don't really want herbs in your final product, so strain that out. Anyway, this will heat very lightly, and you want to make sure that it doesn't boil, nothing bad is going on, for about an hour. You can do half an hour. You can actually do longer as well, but I'll do about half an hour to an hour. So here I've got a block of beeswax. It smells very nice. Kind of smells like honey and other things. And I've got an old grater, and you can grate it with this. It's a little bit of work, but it works. If you can get little pellets of wax, you can use any kind of wax: soy wax, beeswax, probably some other, all kinds of wax. Get that. I'm going to use about 14 grams to my. The end result should be about 200 grams of final product, because I want it a bit liquidy. If I wanted it thicker, I'd use about 20, or I'd use maybe even more if I want it really solid. Like once you use a lot, it does become a block like this. There you go, 14. Can't see it on the camera, but this is 14 grams, so that's quite a fair amount actually. Now it's been around 40 minutes. It's been heating, and I've turned the flame off. I want to cool it, so I want to really wave it for a while, because currently now it's very, very hot, and if I try to grab it, it may hurt. So you want to cool it down to still kind of hottish, warmish, because you're going to have to heat it up again, but just enough that you can take the bowl and strain it, which will be our next thing to do. Now I'm just going to strain it. This is a mesh strainer. If you've got a cloth strainer, like a cheesecloth, that'll be better. But you're going to do what you can. As you see, the herbs at the bottom, we don't want to get too many of those herbs in there, even if it's got a little bit of oil. We want to keep it as kind of pure and clean as we can. Alright, that's good. Now I want to get rid of these herbs, chuck them out, and then put the oil back in the bowl. Alright, so after straining it, you see it's not quite perfect. It's still got some sediment. I added pearl powder, as you can see here. I'm going to mix that in, and it mixes in fairly well. I added about a teaspoon and a half, which may be a little bit too much, to be honest. But it's actually alright, maybe. If you're going to add any ingredient, I recommend you get pearl powder for skin issues. It's honestly one of the best things that I have found, to be completely honest. It's quite amazing. Alright, so this is warmish, I would say. It's just about warmish. I'm just adding a little extra of what's in there. And now I want to add my wax. Here's the wax. I'm just going to toss that all in. I'll get the rest of it in once the video turns off, I guess. I'll use my superior dexterity. Alright, now this isn't going to melt at this temperature, and we don't want to really put it back into the double boiler, because what if we cool it and then it solidifies? So what we do is use a microwave. Now you can actually heat up the oil and the herbs in the microwave as well, but I don't know, I think it's a good lesson to learn how to do it the other way. So I'm going to put this in the microwave for maybe about a minute or two. I'm going to hit it for about 30 seconds, and I'm going to check it and mix it, and I'm going to hit it for another 30 seconds, and I'm just going to keep doing this because I don't want the oil to boil, to bubble. And after that's done, then it's time to, I'll probably pour it into this measuring cup, and then I'll pour it into the tins like this. See how that's kind of starting to like coagulate and heat? It's almost like a weird waxy porridge. That was after 40 seconds. I'm gonna put it back in now. Alright, so this is basically all melted. I'm gonna pour it in a measuring cup, and then we're gonna pour it into containers. Measuring cup. Try to keep as much as that like herbal residue as much out of it as possible, and then we just fill her up. Looks feel good. Try to get 2 out of it. I think I might. Well, should be able to. There we are. And you see it's already starting to it's already. See that? It's solidified already. And down the bottom, a lot of that herbal powder. So if you don't use a cloth filter, that's what you're going to get. It's going to get powder. And what you do is you leave this to solidify. And you can put it in the fridge, you can just leave it as it is. And what happens is usually down the bottom, all of the sediment will fall down the bottom. And what I do, because you'll have 2 layers, you'll have the top layer and the bottom layer full of like herbal sediment, I just mix them together. If you want a really thin, kind of a really non-powdery product, you can just scrape the top off and put that into another container, because you don't want to have just that bottom clump of an oily herbs, because it could go bad. So I will come back once it is all solidified. Right, so as you see, look at this, that has solidified. I'm going to try to dig down a little bit. Oh, there we are. See down there? So it's not too powdery by the looks of it, so it is actually a fairly clean product. I will mix it up just to show what it looks like mixed up. Alright, here you are. So this is more like a balm, and this is more of an ointment, I would say, because this is kind of solid. You got to rub it, you scratch it and you rub it, and eventually you get it. See, that's nice and oily. Use a little bit, not too much. If it's too oily, you grab a towel and you rub your hands or whatever. Oop, that's a little bit way too much. But yeah, here we go, final product. It's good. It's because it's beeswax. It's antibacterial. Good for your skin, and yeah, it's just pretty much the best stuff I've found. I made this because regular creams just weren't really cutting it for any kind of skin problem. Store-bought creams, that was. So if you like it, make it yourself and enjoy. So this stuff is a nightmare to clean. I recommend I just scraped this off with a spoon, and same with the bowl down there, just using this spoon. So you want to get as much of this stuff off as you can, and then just, hot water and soap, and worst case you have to throw away a sponge if it's that bad. But yeah, if you scrape off as much as you can, it should be okay. You'll just have to live with an oily sponge for a few days. Alright, I hope you enjoyed that video. The end product is quite nice. It's very, how do I say it? It doesn't leave like a herbal powder residue at all, so it's quite clean. And it doesn't leave an oily residue as well, which is nice. It might be the that bean oil, I forget, the castor oil. I think adding that makes it so it doesn't really, it kind of dries it, and it's good that way. Anyway, if you want more of these kind of recipes or ideas, check out my Alchemy book, where you can find it either on Gumroad if you want the PDF, or you can find it on Amazon if you want Amazon formats, for about 10 Australian or 8 American. Otherwise, I will put the page up of the Balms and Ointments. It also relates to the oil extraction page, but I won't put that one up. Anyway, if you want to reach me You can get my email down below. My other social medias and video platforms are all down below. And if you're interested in commercial stuff, check the links down below. I've got my Gumroad, as I said, you can get my books there. Get the Alchemy book there. I've also got services on Fiverr and some other things if you're interested in divination or astrology. Anyway, have a nice day, and hopefully you can make some of this ointment yourself and enjoy it.